It's only me. I'm back again at my favorite spot. To get back to some of my trucking stories. I guess the last segment I kind of got you started off on my experiences with Merrill Transport Company, an all tanker operation, oil and gas, and all of that. Occasionally, something else came along to make it a little more exciting. But the year of all the forest fires in central and western Maine, there was a couple of us were recruited to haul water to the firefighters in some of the back roads. We would go into the area where we were. We had to go into Biddeford and pick up the water, and then we were escorted to the different areas of roads that we weren't familiar with. And I was in a little back road, and I had driven in there, and it was a woods road. I managed to get in there, but there was no place to turn around. It was probably a mile off the main road. And so they finally came, and the pumper came and got the water off of the truck. And then someone from Fire and Rescue came and said, "You fellas got to get out of here because the wind has changed and the fire is headed right directly where you are." And it was down around Arundel somewhere. And so that was a matter of just getting out of there. And I tried backing my rig down this woods road, but the fire was going a lot faster than I could back the truck up. And so I got back on left the truck, and they said we can always get a new truck, but we can't get all load of drivers. So I jumped on rescue and get out of there. As it turned out, the wind changed again before it got to where I had abandoned the truck, and so it wasn't damaged, but it could have been lost. So it was one of the interesting things, and I didn't know it until a while afterwards, but a friend of mine who was driving the other truck, there was two of us who had volunteered for this duty. We had gotten together, and our photographs and a story of our heroism was posted in U.S. News and World Report. I kind of wish I'd have saved a lot of those things, to prove that I'm not just telling you a story. But anyway, somewhere along the line, all those little things seemed to have disappeared. So that was a story about my experiences with driving tank trucks all over some of the more interesting terrain in New Hampshire and Vermont that might be of interest. In those days, we had international tractors with a 450 inline six motor that was not really adequate for the loads we were hauling. But we got it done, and the company is non-existent these days, but it was good for a few years, and that got me started in more serious aspects of driving truck over the road. Another time that comes to mind is it was in the winter, very, very cold, and I was delegated to go to Bayonne, New Jersey, and pick up a load of 40 weight motor oil in a regular tanker. It wasn't insulated or heated. Now, the weather in New Jersey was tolerable, but the load was going to Limestone Air Force Base. And so, by the time I got up there, a couple of days later, that oil was almost like asphalt in that tank. And the first morning when I went out to the air base, this was lubricating oil for the giant generators, diesel-powered generators that took care of everything on the base. And so I hooked up the lines, and it was supposed to run gravity into an underground tank. Well, gravity kind of forgot what it was supposed to be doing, I guess, because after a while I checked, and none of that oil had flowed through a 2.5-inch flex line to go anywhere. It was about like coal molasses. That will give you an idea of what it was. So I spent the first day there just waiting for gravity to try to unload that. And I managed to get several hundred gallons of it, but then I couldn't leave the truck there overnight on the base. So they made arrangements to get the whole unit inside of a garage in Caribou that had radiant heat in the floor of this big truck garage, and it sat there all night, and it did warm it up to a point where after 3 attempts, and finally the weather broke a little bit, and between that and leaving the truck in a heated garage all night, I was finally able to get pretty much all of the product out of the tank, and I could then move back the whole thing back to Portland. But I think by the time we got there, there probably was still quite a lot of that molasses type oil in the tank. But that was a long 3 days, not to count going all the way to Bayonne, New Jersey to pick the load up in the first place. So it wasn't awfully exciting, but it's one of the things that truckers have to endure when you do various things that you have to do, whether you're in a tank or a refrigerated box or just a freight trailer. There's always something that makes you a day late and usually $1 short. All right? And so that'll kind of fill in here. We've got a few more stories that we can get at a later date. So in the meantime, take care. So long.